Okay, now we would like to add some more interaction to the cubes. So for this, we make a wall. Let's call it also a wall. Here on the top, we see different ways to manipulate this object here in the scene. And here the pivot one is quite flexible. Let's reset this first. And then we can set it here, make it a little thinner, higher, also much wider. So it's actually more like a wall. Here we go. Okay, so the wall actually has a box collider. That's one thing we need. And the other thing is here the cubes which are colliding with it. So if we actually look quickly at the on trigger enter, that's the event we would like to use. Here in the information we see on trigger enter happens when two game objects collide. And note, this is very important, both game objects must contain a collider component. That's what we've seen. One must have a collider is triggered enabled and contain a rigid body. If both game objects have collider is triggered enabled, no collision happens. Okay, so let's see. The wall has a box collider here. The is trigger is not enabled, and we do this here for the cubes. We have here the box collider. Now let's give it a trigger, and we give it also a rigid body. Now we don't want these boxes to fall with gravity, and just give them kind of kinematic movement. So I think we're good to go. Let's add now to the cube movement actually the logic for the trigger. So here we are back in the cube movement, and we can create this function on trigger enter. Well, let's make it just very simple. And just say it should write to the console trigger. Let's go back to the Unity scene and play. So here we have the cubes approaching the wall, and if we go to the console, it's now empty, but once a cube hits the wall, here we get the message trigger. Now let's give this a little bit more logic, and instead of trigger or triggering, we actually destroy this game object. Let's go back to the scene and play it again. Need to wait quickly until they reach the wall. And now these cubes, they don't fly through the wall, but get destroyed once they reach it.